Hello, class. This is the explanation of the proof of the existence of God. So our question is whether it can be proven, whether you can prove the existence of God. Our references are Copleston, Frederick, A History of Philosophy, and Ilkka Fissianen for the Buddhist religion and the concept of God. Also, the case of Allah's existence in the Quran and the Sunnah. And yes, and that's it. Can we prove that God exists? It is not really the task of religion to prove the existence of God. In principle, someone who believes just believes and accepts the existence of God out of faith. But it does not seek to prove the existence of God. Religion presumes that God or the divinity exists. Without God or the divine, there could be no religion. So you can't say, I have a religion unless you believe, we already believe in God. But philosophically speaking, the existence of God is one of the most important issues to be tackled in philosophy of religion. So from the point of view of philosophy, you have to prove it. From the point of view of religion, you don't have to prove it. But from the point of view of philosophy, you have to prove it. Among the six religions we have studied, only some of the transcendent religions are concerned with providing the existence of God philosophically, proving the existence of God philosophically, without using its non-philosophical beliefs as premises. Okay, so the non-transcendent religions, the immanent ones, don't usually care about proving the existence of God. But there are some of the transcendent religions. You remember the difference between immanent and transcendent religion. There are some transcendent religions that care about proving the existence of God philosophically. So we have this table. On the left side, you have the type of proof and the religion that uses that type of proof. You have intuitive experiential proof. Okay, that means that you somehow have a knowledge. You know that it's true, even though you don't directly see it with your senses, with your eyes. But you know that it's true. And then you have philosophical intellectual proof. So you start with what you see in the world, and from what you see in the world, you prove the existence of God. So if this thing is happening in the world, that is a sign that God exists. So that is philosophical intellectual proof. The third one is want to prove the non-existence of God. So he doesn't really care about the existence of God. This group just wants to prove that God does not exist. So completely the opposite of what we're trying to do. And the fourth is proof by authority, because it's said in the book or it's said by someone who is very believable and who is an expert. Therefore, we believe that God exists because of the word given to us by that book or by that person. So, who belongs to that intuitive experiential proof? Who knows God by intuition, by some feeling, by some experience? That is Hinduism. They experience the presence of the divine inside them. You have Buddhism, the same, because yeah, in order to reach nirvana, you have to have that divine experience within yourself. And then for philosophical intellectual proof, the one that uses philosophy in order to prove the existence of God, you have Judaism, for one, because we have philosophy of the Jews, right? A Jewish philosophy. And Judaism, aside from using the philosophical intellectual proof, it also uses proof by authority. So all the Jews, based on the Bible, based on the Old Testament, they say that God exists because somebody saw him at some point in time in their faith. And then you have Catholicism after Judaism, which uses philosophical intellectual proof. You have Islam, which uses intuitive experiential proof. There are what they call the fitra Allah. Uh, you feel it inside. It's an experience that you have. And you also have Islam in the proof by authority, because the Al Quran says it, therefore God exists. And then you have Protestantism, which sometimes uses philosophical intellectual proof, but it also uses proof by authority. So the Protestants are sola scriptura, and with sola scriptura, you really have to believe in God. And the one that wants to prove the non-existence of God, of course, is atheism. They're the only ones who don't believe in God at all. Now, about the one of atheism, can you prove that God does not exist? Okay, our first question was, can you prove that God exists? But if you ask the opposite question, can you prove that God does not exist? So can you prove that God does not exist? Firstly, you can prove that God can you prove that God does not exist? Okay. This is the alleged proof of the non-existence of God. And this will be answered by, because we're not going to answer it in this lesson, it's going to be answered in another lesson during another meeting. The existence of evil in the world is taken to be the proof of the non-existence of God. If there's evil in the world, therefore God does not exist. That will be answered in another lesson. And then there's lack of empirical evidence of the existence of God. You just don't see him, you don't hear him. Okay, and therefore that is non-scientific. God is non-scientific, and therefore he does not exist. He's not true. So the existence of evil in the world as proof of the non-existence of God will be tackled in the report on evil. The lack of empirical evidence of his existence will be tackled in the report on miracles. Okay, because the claim is, if you don't have empirical evidence, then therefore God exists. And it seems that miracles are empirical evidence of the existence of God, but that will be later in the course. Okay, what about proof of the existence of God? The first proof of the existence of God was written by Saint Anselm of Canterbury, and it is called the ontological argument. The truth is that the name ontological argument was not written by Saint Anselm himself. The title ontological argument was given by Kant. Okay, since you are not philosophy students, I will no longer explain to you the meaning of the term. Anyway, the name of this proof is ontological argument. Ontological referring to being. So this word ontological means being, existent being. Okay. Ontological argument. So how does it go? First, the first premise of the ontological argument is this: our definition of God. So this is our definition of God. And it seems, according to the claim of St. Anselm, it seems that all people, all human beings, when they define God, when they think of God, this is their definition. God is the most perfect being. There is no other being more perfect than him, right? So do all of you agree that this is the general um, definition of God? Okay, so that looks good, right? Second, your second premise, your reasoning here. If he is the most perfect being, then, no, sorry, that is not an M, that's an N. If he is the most perfect being, then all the perfections should be found in him, right? Okay, if he's most perfect, he must be totally perfect. All the types of perfection should be found in God. Third, existence is a perfection. It is better, it is more perfect to exist than not to exist, right? So it is more perfect to exist than not to exist. Therefore, God exists, right? So existence is a perfection, And when we say all perfection should be in God, therefore existence should be in God. And if existence should be in God, therefore God exists. Okay, so that's the ontological argument. Our definition of God: God is the most perfect being. There is no other being more perfect than Him. If He is the most perfect being, then all the perfection should be found in Him. Existence is a perfection. Therefore, God possesses existence. He exists. Okay, so that's the proof of the existence of God. Okay, then you have Thomas Aquinas, many centuries afterwards. This is in the 13th century. He has five proofs of the existence of God, but he does not use the ontological argument because he says the ontological argument starts from your mind and ends in your mind. So how do you know that the thing in your mind is true, right? So Thomas Aquinas was saying you have to start with something outside your mind, okay? Outside your mind. So there you have this title, this little subtitle here, from external realities. And there are five proofs. Many of these proofs, St. Thomas Aquinas just got them from, for example, Aristotle or Plato. He just got them from there. But uh, the genius of Thomas Aquinas was to be able to identify the real proofs, okay, the authentic and the valid proofs of the existence of God. Okay, so the existence of God. The existence of God can be proven in five ways. That STH there means Summa Theologiae. That's the name of the work of Thomas Aquinas. That one is the first volume, Q2 is the question 2, and A3 is the article 3. Okay, it's not important to know very much detail. I just want you to know what all of those numbers and letters mean. The first proof that he gives is prime mover. God is a mover of things. So if things move, then God must exist. Second, first efficient cause. If there's causality in the world, if there is cause and effect, then therefore God must exist. And third, necessary being. So there are two types of being: necessary beings and contingent beings. I will explain that later. But if there are contingent beings, says Thomas Aquinas, then God must exist. The fourth is the most perfect being. If there is, so it starts from the graded perfections that are found in the world. Okay? There are some perfections that are low, that are some perfections that are high. If you can find perfections graded in that way from low to high, then God must exist. Okay? And the fifth is supreme lawmaker. Okay? So if there are moral laws or even scientific laws in this world, then God must exist. Okay? So those are the five ways by which Thomas Aquinas proves the existence of God. So let's look first at the first three. You remember what they are. You have prime mover, proof as a prime mover, first efficient cause, and necessary being. These three have a type of proof which has the same pattern. So they follow the same steps in the proof. So there's a pattern for the first three ways. So the first step of these three ways is to observe a datum of experience in reality, considered metaphysically. You remember the meaning of metaphysical in our first lesson. Okay, so what is philosophy? That is metaphysical. It is a reality that is not seen. It's a reality that is spiritual. So you begin, for example, in this drawing is running. Okay, movement. If there is movement, then there must be God. Second, there is a chain of dependent beings following the causal relationship observed. So from this is caused by something else. He is able to move because there's something that's helping him move. For example, his muscles. The muscles of this man are helping him to move. That's the cause of his movement. Okay, then aside from that, energy. The muscles can move this man because they have energy. Okay, so there's a chain of dependent beings, causal relationship. And then this goes on and on. You have causes going up and up and up. Okay. This chain cannot go into infinity, says Thomas Aquinas. So you cannot just go on and on and on without ending. So there must be an ending. Otherwise, it would not be logical. It would not make any meaning. It will be not meaningful. It will not be meaningful. Okay, so the fourth step is therefore there is an endpoint which requires no passage from potency to act. Okay, that looks very technical, but it means that it doesn't move. Okay, doesn't go from potential, from being potential to actual. This is from Aristotle. So that endpoint doesn't move. It moves, but it doesn't move itself, right? And that is God. So nothing else moves this God. And therefore, in this nothing that this thing that doesn't is not moved by any other thing, that is God. Okay, so let's say, sorry, uh, we didn't go into the deep explanation of this, but anyway, that was our purpose. The first is prime mover. So first is prime mover. If you look at this, there's a movement here, and this is moved by the muscles. The muscles are moved by energy. The energy is coming from the sun, for example, etc. So you go up and up and up until you find, but it should end somewhere, right? So there must be the last thing that is, see, I have that is that moves that looks ugly, but is not moved by another. That it moves something, but is not moved by another. Okay? And that last thing that is here, let me see, let's just remove this pen here. This last thing that is here cannot go into infinity. Therefore, the endpoint, which requires no passage from potency, that is God. Okay? Now, if we go back, the second one is efficient cause, right? Here you have efficient cause. And it's the same. So if you have this pattern, this one is the effect. This man is the effect. And then the effect is made by a cause. So the cause of the movement are the muscles. And then the muscles move because of the energy. So this is the cause and this is the effect. Okay, cause, effect, cause, effect. This one is cause of this and then the effect of that. That goes on and on, but the last one should be a cause with it should be a cause that is not caused by another. There is no cause higher than this one. Okay? So there's nothing here. Nothing more. And that thing that is not caused by anything else must be God. Okay? So that's what we have here. Now, what's the third proof? You remember? It is necessary being. Okay. There are some things that is something that is called contingent. Contingent. Okay, so there are some things that are contingent. That means that they can exist or not exist. Okay, for example, this man could be running or he could not be running. Okay, he could exist or not exist. Now, the muscles also could be moving or not moving. The energy could be there or not there, right? But you cannot have all of this contingent. Okay, so this you cannot have all this line contingent. So in the end, you need someone who is necessary. Okay, so you need someone that is necessary. Necessary means he could not stop existing. Okay, so he should be existent. Because if all the things are contingent, then there will come a time that they will all disappear. Okay, so one of them has to be necessary. Okay, one of them has to be necessary. And therefore, who is that thing that ought to be necessary? Has to be always there. That is no one else but. Therefore, there's an endpoint which requires no passage from potency to act, and that is God. So let me show that to you. Therefore, there's an endpoint which requires no passage from potency to act, and that is God. Okay, so those are the three, and we said that they have the same pattern. These three have the same pattern. The others have a different pattern. The most perfect being is just if there is something that is good, for example. We are here right now. Good. Okay, you have things that are good. For example, let's say this is a bacteria. Sorry, bacteria. Okay, so this is a bacteria. Doesn't look very nice, but anyway, it's a bacterium. A bacterium is good. You know you need it in order to digest. So you have bacteria in your intestines. But aside from that, you also know that a flower is good, right? So a flower like this is good. Okay. And of course, the flower looks better. It's higher than the bacterium, right? But you also know that man is good. Okay, so you have this good bacterium, better, best, right? Going up and up until it is most perfect. Um, but if you're able to compare, this is better than this is better than this, and this is better than this. So you have a standard that you're following. So you can say that this is better than this and this is better than this. And that standard is the most perfect, so this the best. In goodness, that is all goodness, the most perfect being. It's not only a participation, not only good, but he is better and he is the best. He is way up here. Okay, that's the best. And that the best, who else could that be? That's God, right? Okay, so that's the proof of the most perfect being. Now, supreme lawmaker. Supreme lawmaker just means that, all the things, they seem to be following a law, right? For example, if this is the Earth, this is Indonesia right here, and this is the Philippines. Okay, sorry, it's not a very nice drawing. Earth. Okay, if this is the Earth, then we know that the Earth follows certain rules, certain laws, right? It rotates, it goes around the sun, etc. But we know that the Earth did not make its own laws, so it's just following some law that was put into it. Same thing with man, right? When it comes to moral law. When man has a moral law, his conscience, uh, the moral law is something that he did not make, so he feels obliged. He feels that he should follow it. And man did not make it himself. So, for example, you shall not kill. We did not invent that. It was given to us as a law inside our hearts. So, who is the one who makes that law? Could not could not be someone else other than God. Okay, so if there is a law, a moral law especially, then there must be God. God must exist. So these are the proofs of the existence of God. Okay, now let me see if I can erase all of this. Right now it's not following my instructions. Okay. Anyway, we'll go forward. Aside from the external proofs, we have three internal proofs of the existence of God. Okay. Three internal. So all of those are external, these ones, right? Because you can see them outside. The prime mover, uh, outside, movement is outside, causality is outside, beings, necessary and contingent beings are outside, perfection is outside, and law is found outside as well. Okay, so but if we have the internal one, these things are found inside. So one is morality, is found inside. So even though feels like it comes from inside, but it's the feeling, the conscience that is inside. Real moral obligation is a fact. We are really truly objectively obligated to do the good. We can see it in others. They feel that their conscience is obliging them to do what is good and to avoid what is evil. Now, either the atheistic view of reality is correct or the religious one, okay, to explain this morality. We just invented that morality. No, but it looks like it was not invented by us, as we were saying in the previous proof. But the atheistic one is incompatible with there being moral obligation. If there's moral obligation, you cannot deny that that there's a morality coming from inside us. Therefore, the religious view is the really correct one. There must be a God who made that law. Okay, so that's similar to the fifth proof of Thomas Aquinas. There's a proof from desire. And what is the proof from desire? The general principle is that every natural innate desire in us corresponds to some real object that can satisfy that desire. Okay, so for example, if we have hunger, if we are ever hungry, then there must be food, right? Sorry. For you cannot be hungry if there's no food, right? If food does not exist, then what is the meaning of this hunger that you have here? Okay? So if you're hungry, then there must be food. If you are thirsty, then there must be water. Okay? So every natural innate desire in us corresponds to some real object that can satisfy that desire. Okay? But there exists in us a desire which nothing in time, nothing on earth, no creature can satisfy. We're always looking for this good thing, right? We are never happy. Even though we may have all the things here on earth, but we are never happy. We always want something more perfect. Okay? But that is a natural desire. So we said that every natural desire should have an object. What is that object of that desire, of that constant search for happiness that is inside us? Therefore, there must exist something more than time, earth, and creatures which can satisfy the desire. What else can be more than time, bigger than the earth, and more important than creatures, other than the Creator Himself, right? So that is God. This is something, this something is what people call God, life with God forever. Okay? The third internal proof is religious experience. Okay, so you have that morality, the feeling of morality. Second is religion. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is the religious experience. The second is desire, internal desire, natural internal desire. And the third is that it has this desire has its object. And the third is the religious experience. So what does it say? Many people in different eras and of widely different cultures claim to have an experience of the divine. So almost all cultures, all peoples have a religion. It is a common experience, a common reality. And if everybody has it, it is inconceivable that so many people could be so utterly wrong about the nature and content of their own experience. So, how come all of them do that if it does not correspond to anything real, right? Therefore, there exists a divine reality which many people of different eras and widely different cultures have experienced. It's a common experience, and therefore, it must correspond to something commonly experienced as well, commonly possessed, and that is God. Okay, so that the intervals from morality, from desire, and from religious experience. The end. If you have any questions, well, please ask it in Flipgrid, and I will be very happy to answer them. Thank you, and have a nice day.